Welcome to Spiritual Changemakers, the podcast that guides you through tough times with practical tools and inspiring stories. I'm Andreea Tamas, your host and the Sacred Transitions Coach. Join us as we hear from spiritual changemakers who have connected with their higher power and overcame adversity. Whether you are navigating a difficult transition or seeking to deepen your spiritual practice, our podcast provides guidance to help you find magic in the change. Come on this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation with us and unlock your potential to become your best self. Welcome, my beautiful souls, to a new podcast episode on Spiritual Changemakers. Today we have a beautiful guest. We have Stephen Puri, and we are going to talk about mindful productivity, finding your flow state, which I don't know about you, but I am super excited to learn more about it, how to tap into it, how to live out of it. And I just want to welcome you, Stephen. I'm so happy to have you here and for us to have a beautiful conversation and provide lots of value to our audiences.
Indeed. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's, playing along at home or in their car right now. And I do hope this is a fun episode and a helpful one. The journey that I've had so far has been both through very creative fields. I've been an executive at some film studios, and also in technology, which is a little more, let's say, left-brained. So a lot of that I've seen, and now I share lessons on flow states and sort of healthy productivity, sort of how to realize your potential.
The fun thing is that you're also a yogi. Yeah, you're saying
I'm going there after this. You know that.
Yeah, a daily yogi. And I love that. I love when I see how people bring in the left brain with the right brain, and incorporating them. And I would love to hear, because you have been a 2-time senior film studio executive and a 3-time startup founder, and you are just sharing lessons on healthy productivity, remote work, and flow states.
This is true.
Yeah, when did you get also on this path of yoga? But before you tell me that, I would just love to hear from you. What does spirituality means for you?
Okay, so spirituality, as I use it, is distinctly different than religion. And I cannot speak about religion. I think there have been so many movements in human civilization to understand the concept of God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, Allah, Yahweh, whatever. I don't think humans are very good at understanding that and being administrators of the concept of God. I do think that there's a lot of commonality among the successful religions around kind of how to treat each other, don't steal each other's wives, don't steal each other's property, don't kill each other, treat other people the way you want to be treated. So when you say spirituality, for me, it's, and I think for many, it's significantly different than understanding one's religious beliefs. So I can speak about spirituality because that is a big part of my life, which is I do think that there are common principles around how you treat yourself, how you treat other people, that infuse everything you do. It infuses what you eat, infuses where you live, who you surround yourself with, how you drive, like how you treat people at the grocery store. It comes down to fundamental beliefs around, how do you relate to the world? And I think that's an expression of your spirit,
So who you are being in every interaction that you're having.
Yeah. And you can feel when you're in alignment, like your actions and your words are in alignment with your spirit, with, who you think you are, the energy inside you that you can share or choose not to share, depending on the situation. I think that, over time you start to see the patterns in your life of when you were, most in alignment, and when maybe you were, doing things a little lost from where you should be.
Yeah, and you have been mainly your whole life, you have
Hmm.
been on the left side of the brain, yes, like working in that
Hmm.
environment. And what got you onto this other side as well, the yoga? How did that started, and what moved you towards that?
It was interesting about this is that my ex-girlfriend, who's still a good friend of Laura's, my wife and mine, years ago, she was the director of marketing for Yoga Works, a big chain, right? When we were together, she gave me a yoga mat and gave me a yoga, class card saying, "Oh, hey, go do these 8 or 12 classes, whatever it was." Like a good boyfriend, I went, I did the classes, and the day after the last one, I did not wake up thinking, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get to yoga," And, Allie was very cool about it. She's like, "Hey, you tried it. That was really nice. You tried. Wasn't your thing. Great." About 2 years later, this is around the time I was leaving DreamWorks and I'd gone to work at 20th Century Fox in film. I was traveling with my dad. My dad is Indian, full Indian, and some family friends through India. And there is a national park there that's sort of like Yellowstone or Yosemite in the United States, where everyone knows it. You go there maybe once or twice, sort of thing. It's called Ranthambore, and it's famous because within it is the Royal Bengal Tiger Preserve. So you can go there, hire a trekker and a jeep, and go out into the jungles and the forest and see if you can see the tigers that day. So we were there, and we arrived in the morning, and we were going to spend like 2 or 3 days there to see if we could, see the tigers. So it's it's a huge, huge expanse in the center of India, and there's a hotel that is within the park. And the deal they made with the Minister of the Interior is that they wouldn't break the tree line. So there wouldn't be like some tall building sticking out of the forest, right? So what they did is they built these beautiful luxury yurts that are scattered in the forest. So when you arrive, you go to a tent, and they just describe you. They say, "Oh, when you leave this tent, you'll see a flagstone path to your right. Walk down that for 20 minutes and you'll see a tent on your right. That's your tent." So you're like, "Okay, great," right? And it's a beautiful property. So we went, and the end of the story is coming. I know this is a long story, but this is kind of how I discovered it. So as we were walking, my father and I, to our tent, I saw an Indian guy, a little guy in a white dhoti, about 30 meters off the path in a clearing. And I said to my dad, "I'll catch up with you." I went and walked up to this guy. I said, "Hi, I'm just curious, what are you doing?" Because he's standing alone in a clearing. And he said, "Oh, I lead a yoga practice." Without smiling, like there's nothing weird about this. He's standing in the middle of the forest alone, right? So I said, "Oh, that's really great. When do you teach this?" He said, "In the afternoon." And now he's alone. I said, "For whom, do you teach this?" And he said, "Anyone who comes by." And none of this with even a smile. He's just very serious and very sweet. And I said, "So if I were to go to lunch with my dad and our friends and come back here in the afternoon, you're going to be leading yoga practice here in this clearing in the forest?" He's like, "Yes." So I go to lunch now with everybody. I'm like, "Oh my God, there's this guy in the forest. It's so cool. He's going to be here." And now keep in mind, it's sort of like when you live in LA and your friends come to town and they want to go to Disneyland, and you're like, "I've been 10 times. Like, I'm so good. You go to Disneyland. I'll see you at dinner," right? So I pitched
Yeah.
this, and all of our family friends are like, "Oh, we've done yoga. You go. You go enjoy your yoga thing." So I went that afternoon, and the guy was standing there, as he said, like 3 in the afternoon. There was a tall German man standing facing him. And I walked up, and the little Indian guy said, "Let us begin." And he taught a yoga class there in the middle of the afternoon in the forest. At the end of it, I wanted to call Allie. I wanted to tell her I wasn't ready then,
Mm.
but I understand now the gift you were trying to give me. And since then, I've had a daily yoga practice for 10,
Wow.
15 years, whatever it's been. And it's been amazing. It is how I met Laura. Laura was on the mat to my left in New York when I was doing yoga one day. We started chatting,
Mm.
and now we're having a child.
Aw, so beautiful, and congratulations for your
Thank you.
child. So
Super
excited.
excited. So yes, yoga, a huge part of my life, and definitely influential in when I was leaving Fox. I don't think that I would have been so clear about this is morally not aligned anymore. if I hadn't had that practice every day in my life. I think it made some things more clear about News Corp and where I was working. There was just, this is a value misalignment for me, and I should leave. And
Mm.
I thank yoga for that. I wouldn't be where I am now if I'd stuck it out at News Corp.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And going to the productivity, the
Mm-hmm.
flow state,
Oh, yeah.
what about it that you are like, I really wanna go and spread the word about this, teach about this, and what makes your approach different than others?
Okay. So let me set the table for everyone, which is I first encountered, like, experienced a flow state when I didn't know the term flow state.
Hmm.
I was on a flight from Austin, which is where I am now, going to San Francisco. And the next day I was going to meet with my team. And I wanted to illustrate this idea that I had for a feature. So I thought on the plane, I'll get into Figma, kind of mock this up. And. So we get on that plane, and Alaska runs a nonstop on that route. And the captain comes on and says, "Hey, kids, the Wi-Fi's out. Whoops, sorry. So we take off. About 15 minutes later, we're starting to descend. And I think to myself, we're descending into Dallas. Like, we've been in the air 15 minutes. Like, something really bad happened. An engine fell off, and they don't want to scare us. So they'll tell us on the ground when we land, like, oh, by the way, we have one
Oh,
engine
no.
left or something. And I looked at my computer, and over 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by.
Hmm.
And I had no concept that time had elapsed, but my designs were done, and they were really good. I felt good about them. I couldn't tell you if the drink cart came by. I couldn't tell you the name of the guy in the seat next to me. Like, I had no concept of the world around me, but I'd been really deep in the work. Later, I learned, oh, that weird magical experience, that was a flow state. That's when you become immersed in the work, time falls away, distractions fall away. And at the end of it, you feel kind of uplifted and energized as opposed to depleted, like, oh, I grounded out all night. So tired. It was
Mhm.
actually a great feeling, especially because my plan was I'll get to the hotel, grab a sandwich in the lobby, go to the hotel room and finish my work, before the meeting. And in reality, I had a free night in SF. I called a friend. I was like, I have a free night. Do you want to have dinner? So it was a really nice experience. Now,
Hmm.
later, as I became smarter about this, learned there's a Hungarian American psychologist, this guy Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He had a thesis. He's like, high performers in these very different disciplines, artists and athletes and scientists and inventors, they go into these concentrated states where they do the thing that makes them famous. They do the thing that moves the world. And they describe that state in very similar ways. He was like, what's up with that? So he did the research, right? Sort of like Prometheus getting fire from up on the mountain and bringing it down to the rest of us. He's like, I want to learn. So at the end of it, he wrote a book called Flow, which is where we get the term flow state. And he said this, he said, I chose this word because it was the most beautiful metaphor I could find for the fact that we are all on the river, paddling to move ourselves forward. But if you align your boat with the current, it carries you, it magnifies your efforts. And that's what these high performers have figured out how to do consistently. And I thought that was fascinating and inspiring because I'd experienced it. And I was like, that's a thing. That's a different way of working than how I've worked in the past. And that, of course, turned into, okay, let's research that. And then you see all the smart people who have, standing on his shoulders, then done the research on what helps you get in. Like, how does music help you? How do you
Mm.
block distractions? How do you have healthy breaks and things like that? So that's I find very inspiring, and I love sharing. So thank you for asking me.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on here to share with us. So I would love to hear what first, like what would be some of the blockages to flow? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's blocking flow that I would
Okay.
say a
So
lot
I
of
have some
people are
questions for
having.
you.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn the table for a
Hmm.
moment. So, have
Sure.
you experienced that state where the world kind of falls away and you've been in the work?
Yes, I did.
You have. Okay. So, when you've experienced that, at the end of that, Do you feel better than you started, or do you feel depleted?
Better. I feel like, oh, accomplished and, as you said, like energized and like almost as if
Yeah,
I want to do
right?
more of it.
Okay, okay. This is great. So when you are wanting to repeat that experience, to say, oh, you know what, I want to write this beautiful thing, or I want to create this thing, I want to be in that state. What are the things that hold you back? What are the things you find like pull you away from that?
Mm. With B, I would say the busyness of the mind. Like, oh, there is so much to do, 100 tabs open on my
Yeah. Oh,
laptop,
me too.
the phone next to me and getting
Yep.
notifications. And it's like,
Guilty.
oh, but there is so much to do. It's like, I don't know if I have the time to do this right now.
So true. Okay, so let's pick up on a few things you said because I have the exact same problems. And when you talk to someone who's building something, they're very often building something to solve a problem that they have, right? So I get
Yeah.
distracted very easily, and I also procrastinate, right? I
Mm.
can find lots of ways to procrastinate that seem like I'm busy, but actually
Mhm.
I'm not doing the thing I know moves my life forward, right? So let's talk about what you said. You talked about having so many things, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? There's so many tabs I have open. There's so many ways in which I could spend this time. I will tell you a problem that I noticed about myself that I named. I called it the cold start problem, which is tomorrow morning, Andrea, you know what? I need to write that blog post, or I need to write a bit of code for the website or something. But at 9:15, I'd still be kind of scrolling the news, and at 9:30, I'd be replying to emails that didn't really need to be replied to, but you just kind of do
Mhm.
that. And I realized when I looked at that it was at the end of the day I would feel the pain, where it would be those little decisions during the day turned into I didn't finish, and I would know at 6 o'clock, that right. So I asked myself why. Like the famous thing of just keep saying why to get one layer of the onion away. So why am I doing that? Well, I'm procrastinating. Why am I procrastinating? And I was like, well, because I kind of feel overwhelmed. Like there are so many things I could be doing. There's so many pieces, and some of the things are big. Like sometimes I would have a task that was like so large you couldn't do it today. So when I was designing, the platform that we built, the Flow State app, one thing I did, and this could sound so simple, but it helps me, is I can put in it all the little things I need to do, right? To capture it and
Mhm.
get it out of my brain. Here are 17 things I need to do. But as soon as I hit play and the music begins and starts to take me away, it hides everything but the top three. So when I look
Mhm.
up, I go, oh, you know what? These are three things I'm going to do. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. And I don't see the other like 14. And it just helps my brain in a very simple way of saying, like, oh, that's achievable. I can do those three. And I think there are a lot of productivity experts that have proven if you think you're going to do 17, you're going to end up doing fewer things. You know what I mean? It's so overwhelming.
Yes.
When we started doing this in our platform, the members, who use our Flow State app, they are now 77% more likely to finish all three than before when they could see their whole list at all times. They would finish 2 or 1 because they would jump
Mhm.
around and do the thing I would do, which is like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh, I should work on this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that thing you said, super true about how do you just like focus and say, what's really important? I prioritize these three things, right? And the other thing is, I would find while I was working, oh, I hit a roadblock. I'm writing this thing, I'm writing this blog post. I am reading it back to myself. I'm like, I need to rewrite this. This isn't good. It's not right,
Mhm.
sort of. Or I'd be working on some code and it wouldn't compile over and over and over. I'd get build errors. I'd get frustrated and I'd reach for my phone, right? Instant dopamine right here. Look, Stephen, just take a minute and just, check your WhatsApp, see if Andrea said anything from Peru, see, what Laura said, right? And it never is 1 minute, right?
Yep.
You pick up your phone and it is beautifully designed to say, oh, just scroll a little bit more or just tap one more app or just, right? So I was
Mhm.
guilty, really guilty of that. So one of the things we did was when you hit, play in Suka, it gives you a QR code that you can shoot with your phone, put your phone down. And if I pick up my phone while I'm working, my little assistant in the computer says, Stephen, is your phone helping you right now? And it just is that one moment of, who do I want to be? Do I want to be that person that's intentional, that's like trying to execute, my dharma, trying to like move forward in life? Or do I want to be the person who scrolls and double taps and, and does whatever, right? So we did little things like that. If you open a website that you say is distracting to you, whether it's Etsy or whether it's ESPN, it just gives you a little pop-up, says, is this helpful? So a lot of these little things, when you go to the concept of a flow state of, okay, how do you have your brain drop in, your spirit sort of say like, oh, this is where I want to be putting my energy, and then block away the things that are distractions, that are stealing your energy. That's kind of the core of it, of what I've been doing, is saying, how do we continually give you tools to stay in the flow and block the things that want to steal your life,
Yeah, because right now we literally live in a world where everyone is just trying to grab your attention. It's like, no, look here,
Right?
do this, go there, buy that. It's like,
Oh my God. I know. The trillion-dollar companies, their business model is steal your life, period.
yeah,
That's their business model.
yeah.
And 10 years ago, if you remember, they would have to testify in front of Congress, and they'd, like Zuckerberg would be like, oh no, we're just here to show grandmothers photos of their grandchildren. That's what we do. It's so cute the way they try to hide what they actually did. And then now they are completely upfront. If you read their shareholder reports, their quarter reports, their reports are like, this quarter we stole this much of people's lives. Next quarter we have new techniques to steal more of everyone's life. And it's unreal. Like, I think a lot about, I'm having a child, and I'm going to, hopefully we'll have a daughter in 2 years, right? So there is a world that will live on after I'm gone, right? And Laura and I are gone. And what will that next generation do to overcome, like you said, that all of the little steal your life things? And I hope that my kids' generation looks at us and social media the way I look at my dad's generation with smoking, where I'm like, how did you do that to yourself? Like my dad has 3 friends who died of lung cancer. No one forced them to smoke. But, my dad's like, you understand, it was cool. Like all the movie stars, James Dean, all these guys were smoking, and the tobacco companies are putting out studies on how healthy tobacco is, It's exactly like social media right now, where it's like, I can imagine my son saying to me, Dad, let me just get this straight. So you guys would watch a video of Kim Kardashian selling you her underwear and think that was content. Like you would watch that as if it was entertainment and would be like, I know it sounds stupid when you say it that way, but yeah, we would, And I hope that we learn some lessons from this current era.
Yeah, I hope so too, because it does become quite worrying. Like I see with my nephews, with like small children, and oof, it worries me quite a bit when I see them like from 2, 3 years old already, like knowing more how to handle the electronics than me. I'm like, oops,
Oh yeah,
what's
we will
happening?
see. I
What is
know.
happening?
Maybe they can manage it better. And I'll tell you some things I saw when we were talking about my film career, right? In film, I worked with a lot of the top writers in the action space. I did a lot of action, sort of summer movies. So there are about a dozen people who write most of those big movies, right? They're $1 million, $2 million a script. And there are things that I noticed that they did, and they're free. Like they're not something you need to go buy tools to, but they learned little mental techniques about how to say, I'm going to channel my energy here and do this thing, right? That moves my life forward or my family or, And let me give you a couple examples. I'll try and be concise about that. One thing I noticed was the way they were very precise about the relationship between their mind and physical spaces. So a number of them had very particular places that they would treat as sacred for certain kinds of activities. And I saw this when we were doing Independence Day. I saw this when we were doing like Transformers, is those writers would have a very specific place where they're like, this is where we write. And I noticed it when I started working remotely, working from home, that I initially would be like, oh, well, I'm going to go work in the kitchen in the morning because the light's beautiful. I'll work upstairs later. I'll work on the sofa at the end of the day. And I realized for my brain, it does create a kind of like load, a kind of drag of you're continually in a new environment and there are new stimuli and there are new things, as opposed to now when I'm going to, write code, I sit here. And as soon as I enter the space, my brain goes, oh, right, we're going to be writing something.
I know what's
And
happening. Yeah.
yeah, and it was really interesting. Like when we were doing Independence or about to do Independence Day, Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, who were the co-writers and the producer director, they had written their previous scripts at this villa in Puerto Vallarta, apparently beautiful villa. And I asked Dean about this. He said there's this room at this white marble villa where the light comes in over the pool in the morning. And he said in that room, we don't think about our agents and we don't think about budgets and studio notes. We don't think about casting. We just think about what's the movie we'd want to see. And then we try and write that. And when they were going off to write this next one, Roland had asked his assistant, please go rent the villa. We need it for a month or two to go write. And she said, it's rented. Someone, it's a vacation rental. Like someone had rented it already. And Roland bought the villa that weekend.
Ooh.
So by Monday, he owned a $5 million villa in Puerto Vallarta. Where the renters went, I don't know. I'm sure they were paid nicely to go to another rental, right? But that worked for them. When they came back, the script that they wrote became the third highest grossing movie in film history at the time. It was, they understood this was where they got in the zone in their flow state. So it's something you can do for free. Another one is understanding times of day. There's a famous writer, Ron Bass, writes screenplays. Rain Man, My Best Friend's Wedding, like all these movies in the 80s and 90s. And he would not talk to his family in the morning. He said, I'm not the dad who's going to say, hey, who wants pancakes? Or, do you need a ride to school? He said, when we start talking, I can't hear my characters in my head anymore. I can't hear their voices. And obviously, he writes the words that get Julie Roberts and Tom Cruise to say yes to his script over the 100 other offers they have, right? So his family's very understanding, because they're like, Dad, go make $2 million. Like, it's okay. We can make the pancakes. But he was very aware of this concept of chronotype, which is the concept that you're better at certain times of day to do certain things. And for him, that 5 to 9 a.m. was dialogue. It was a certain kind of writing alone. In the afternoons is when he would do studio meetings, collaborations with other writers, things like that. And that I saw very commonly with really creative types that understood their rhythms of like, oh, late at night, this is what I do when it's quiet. There's no one, right? Whereas during the day, I do this. Or in the morning, this is my practice. And I noticed that for myself. Like I get up at 5, try to do either yoga or I'll go to the gym, because there's something about getting like that blood flowing that really gives me a clarity of mind and spirit for a good 3 hours afterwards. So it's something you can do for free. Is if you start to track like when you feel good about certain things, you start to then plan your day to say, oh, what? I should be writing in the morning. I'm really good, at dawn. And I should be doing, interactive stuff in the late morning or in the early afternoon or things like that. Or this is when I should pay bills or do shallow work, as Cal Newport would say, So anyway, just a couple of easy techniques to help you find that connection of what you're meant to do and the reality of you're doing it,
Yeah, really, I hear you really bringing the awareness to the different times of your day and see, okay, when am I at my best for different type of tasks? Because
Yes.
different tasks is gonna require different capacity and different flow. Like the flow
Yes.
to write, it's different than the flow of just going and meeting with people and having interactions and so on.
That is exactly right. And when you read, because people call it different things, and Csikszentmihalyi acknowledged this. He said, athletes call this, flow state by a different name. Like there's a famous quote by Michael Jordan, who's this basketball player, about when I'm in the zone, it's just me and the ball. And that was his way of saying the distractions fall away. There's no clock above me. It's just me and the ball. And in fact, that's truly what was important for him is if he controlled the ball, he would win the game. He would do the thing that 30 years later, people are still talking about, on highlight reels and stuff. But he called it, being in the zone. And Picasso had another quote where he was like talking about being up all night. And for him, like that being in the artistic flow was a very late night thing. And he said, I forgot to eat. I don't think I went to the bathroom, but I think I finished Guernica, and that sense of being lost in the work, you can find different words for it. You can find how it specifically works for you, but there is a place where that exists. And it's beautiful when you find it for yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. And you also mentioned the environment now that to
Mm-hmm.
create a separate environment that is going to
Mm-hmm.
just trigger it, like triggers your mind. Once you sit there, it's for that type of flow,
Exactly.
that type of
Yeah.
work. And what would you say to those people like me that travel the world and work while they do that? Because it's like we constantly move the environment, the place, and so on. So honestly, it's
Yes.
quite hard to adapt to that
Let's
specific
talk
thing.
about that. Yes. So there are a number of facets to environment, right? Because there's physically, am I in the place where everything looks the same, right? And that's like you said, if you're nomadic or if you're traveling, that's not going to be the case, right? However, there's also, does it sound the same? And your oral environment, oral environment is a really important trigger. There's a lot of research on this. And I'll tell you, I discovered some of this as we were building our platform. You read the research, the sweet spot for most people, the music that helps them drop into flow more quickly, stay there, it's usually 60 to 90 beats per minute. It's certain key signatures. It's non-vocal. You're not singing along with the music. It's ambient, melodic music, and it gets your brain into that just rhythm of being in the work, right? Now, when we launched, I happen to have a bunch of friends who are film composers, with time on their hands. So I can say to them, hey, could you write original music sort of to these research guidelines, right? So we have like 1,000 hours of music that's like that, different playlists, upbeat and down tempo and lo-fi and things like that, right? So I had a surprise. There's a friend who does the sound for LucasArts for the Star Wars games up in Marin, north of San Francisco, right? He called me up and he said, listen, my son for his high school graduation present wanted to go to Nepal. So I just got back. And one day we were in Kathmandu. It poured rain. He said this lush, beautiful rain up in the Himalayas. And he's an audio guy. He had some of his audio equipment. He said, I recorded 2 hours of this rain because it just sounded so like delicious. I don't know what to do with it. Do you want it? So I said, well, if you're giving it to us for free, sure. Thanks, Julian, So we quietly put a playlist in the middle of all of the musical playlists. We put a playlist that just said Himalayan Dream Rain. And it's just a 2-hour loop of rain in the Himalayas. What's going to happen? I don't know. Try. It's become our third most popular playlist. And I reached out to, when I saw that people were discovering it and then listening to it, I have everyone's email address. So I reached out to some people. I was like, can you tell me more, what's interesting to you about this? How does this help you get into flow? And a lot of it was the associations, the triggers. I heard from people, when I was young, I would be at my grandmother's house in Georgia where it rained, and I hear that rain and I think of studying. Or I would be at our house that was in the mountains of West Virginia, and the rain associates for me. And I was like, wow. So that the trigger is not just, someone wrote this melody and this harmony and, made it in a relaxing, way, but it's also the sound of rain was a trigger. So then, of course, we actively experimented and we found recordings of like Emerald Lake up in Canada. There's this very specific kind of bird, and you hear like the water lapping on the side of the lake and the little birds. We found the surf in Cyprus. Someone had recorded that. A stream in Japan. So we put these up as playlists, and people started discovering them. It was really cool. And a woman then reached out and asked me, she said, I see what you're doing. You're experimenting with all these different sounds. She said, there's actually something I would like that you haven't done. And I was like, I'd love to learn. I learned so much from people asking questions of us. She said, I had a child during the pandemic. I had a child. Before the pandemic, I used to go write. She was a blogger, or she is a blogger. I used to go write in coffee shops. She said, I can't really do that now with like a 2-year-old, and life's changed and all that. She said, but there's something about hearing the little espresso machine and the little coffee cups. She's like, that makes me feel like I'm a writer in a coffee house, like, some
Oh, wow.
Hemingway-esque thing. She's like, could you? And you're going to laugh, Andreea. We found a recording someone made of a coffee house in Vienna, Austria. So we called it Café Vienne, and we put it up as a playlist, and people listened to it. So I share this to say, yes, there is research that goes, you know what, in D minor, this sort of 42 beats per minute thing, all that may be true, but there's also associations when you ask someone, you go, what do you think of when you think of being in that state? And they're like, oh, the rain at my grandmother's house. Or I used to write. I used to be a writer in the coffee shop. Can you help me get to the coffee shop? And that, I think, is really beautiful when people say, I have an idea. This is what helps me get into flow.
Yeah. So finding what I'm taking from what you just shared, Stephen, is even like trying all these different sounds and see which one triggers something within you to help you get to that flow state. And when we use the sound, then that can be within our environment, and we don't
Yes.
necessarily need to be in the same room at the same desk in
Exactly
order
right.
for
The
it to have
environment
it
is a lot of
triggered.
things, and we have different sense. Like, I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, now I can see.
This smell, it's like an orange gingery smell for me. I've smelled it so many times when I'm working. When I light this candle, it immediately makes me think, oh, you know what? I'm here. I only smell this smell here in my office, and it makes it feel, again, like an environment wraps around me. It's like, at the end of yoga, if you have an instructor that brings like Palo Santo around the room, stuff like that, you smell that and you instantly go, oh, I'm in Shavasana. I'm in this safe, beautiful space where we're all like feeling the energy of the practice of the last 90 minutes, right? And I associate Palo Santo. I can have my eyes closed. You do that to me, and I'm like, I'm in Shavasana, right?
I just finished yoga.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another aspect of if you want to realize your potential, right? There are a number of things you can do to help your mind and your spirit get there. There's, what are you listening to? What are the inputs you hear? What are the things you smell? Like you said, what is it you see, which may change if you're nomadic? There are a lot of those things you can do to help you fall in and say, okay, I'm in that place now. And that's what I love seeing, because fundamentally what I believe is this, like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi had his thesis around, there's this magical state that these high performers go into, and he did his research. My thesis is more, everyone has something great inside them. And the question of your lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? So it is, as we discussed early in this podcast, and everyone discusses this, there's so many distractions. They're so beautifully made. The best designers and engineers are making these distractions to take you away from doing that great thing inside you, right? So if you're going to do that, if you refuse, to go to your grave with it still inside you, then find the allies, find the tools that help you realize it. Because it takes energy. You have to want it. The easiest thing is to sit on the sofa and just scroll, tap, scroll, double tap, and then you end up at 80 years old, the girl or the guy who's like, oh yeah, I could have started that restaurant. I could have written that book. I could have, made that app, but I was busy in Instagram and TikTok, and it's a horrible way to die. Yeah.
It is, and a lot of people die that way. So I hear you saying that first and foremost, it starts with a desire of one thing to bring that greatness out.
Yep. Yes. You have to be intentional. What is your
Mm-hmm.
intention? Just like starting a yoga practice. Do you have an intention? Do you come to your mat with something that you want to reinforce in your spirit? Today, my intention is prepare for, little little Satish to arrive, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that means doing reading. I know it means, my friends have all contributed things I should be ingesting and think about this. And there'll be a lot of discovery, but that's a big intention in my yoga practice right now. I'm just saying, like, what have I done today to become a little better father when he comes? And I'll make mistakes. I'll do stupid stuff. But if I put some energy toward it, I'm intentional, I'll be better than I would have been.
Mm. So
And
would
that's
you
how it is
say
with your career.
intention, it's something that you bring in everything you do?
Yeah. And Mihaly actually, I know we were talking a lot about flow states. That's kind of like foundational for our
Mm-hmm.
chat today. And I know when we have spoken before, we talked about this magical sort of way of realizing what's in your spirit. But Mihaly wrote this. He said, even these high performers, the ones that know how to get into a flow state, they can only do it when they think the work they're doing is meaningful.
Mm.
They don't get into a flow state when they think what they're doing is meaningless or it's trivial. You have to believe, and you have to be challenged. He said, it is not just, oh, this is a meaningful thing to do. You have to have skills that apply, and you have to be challenged, So
Mm.
you can imagine, like, when you're talking like that Picasso quote about Guernica, like, imagine trying to even at Picasso's level of artistry, trying to make manifest on this massive canvas the horror of war, like,
Yeah.
that's challenging even at his level. Or Michael Jordan playing in the NBA finals or something. Like, this is high performers, high performing. And when
Mm.
you are there, it's an amazing feeling. And that's what I want everyone to have the opportunity to experience. Some people are not going to be intentional. Some people love Instagram Reels or TikTok thing or Snapchat stories so much they're going to waste their life. And you know what? That is their choice. That is their choice. But the ones who are
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to realize my potential. I want to do something. I have something inside me needs to get out. It's like, find the tools. And it doesn't have to be my tool. It can be anything that helps you. Maybe Brain FM or Endow has beautiful music for you or something. And you're like, this helps me get there. Or this candle.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it can be free things, it can be pay
Yeah.
things, but try different things and see what resonates. I know for me throughout my journey, I have like worked with so many different coaches, mentors, and
Mm-hmm.
tried a lot of different tools to see what works. And also with what I got to realize is that certain things work for a certain period of time, then they have like an
Sure.
expiration date, and you need to shift it, change it, and find something else that is going to resonate with your evolution.
Right.
So
Because the
it's
river keeps
never that.
flowing forward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I found this and that's it, it's gonna go forever, I'm gonna use it forever. Like, no, because that's not who you are. Also, as a human being, if you are on this path of growing and learning, you are going to evolve, and you are going to desire to change and shift things that
Yeah.
you use as tools to help you with flow and productivity and finding your greatness as well. And
Yeah.
what do you have to say about that? Like, um because I feel even with that can be like a very slippery rope of you use it, and I've done that too, like guilty of that too, like
Mm-hmm.
using it, and then I'm like, I kind of got bored, let me try something else. Also, like shifting way too fast even before something actually gets to work on you or for you.
Yes. I am not a psychologist, but I relate to what you're saying. So let me share in the non-expert mode now, right? Let me share about what you said, which is, you are right. You can have something that works, and maybe on the 19th day, the exact same thing doesn't work the same way anymore. It's medicine. You take the same supplements, the same vitamins, the same medicine, whatever, endlessly, and eventually their potency doesn't have the same effects, right?
Mhm.
And you are right about that. And I do believe that we have to continually challenge ourselves. Like, there's an element of human nature that says, I do want to experience change. It's how we mark time. Like, you wouldn't really, I know it sounds a little astrophysicist, but we wouldn't really have time if nothing changed, because you couldn't tell that anything had elapsed, the time had elapsed, right? So it's almost like between movements, there's an infinity of no time. And we crave those little differences that let us know that there is motion, there is difference. So as this applies to what I do, yeah, we try to continually offer like new sounds, new playlists to listen to, we give you beautiful backgrounds while you work of different places on earth and things like that. Just to kind of go, hey, let's keep it a little fresh. But people rotate in and rotate out. I mean, in the years we've been running this, I see there are people who reappear we haven't seen for a year because they went and they found something else that helped them. And then they needed, to switch. And that is really about, if you stay true to your intention, you can find the details that work for you. It's like you can't eat the same meal every night, even if you love that meal, right? But you can rotate it in,
Yeah.
So I do hope that there is an element of novelty in it, but the thing that is the North Star is the intention of like, this is why I'm here. And maybe why you're here is to write the next great novel, to create, the next Guernica, whatever. It is up to you to find that, and how you get there, you get there.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing. And are there any final words you would like to share with the audience regarding
Sure.
to productivity, to finding your place?
Yeah, you know what? Productivity, this is the thing, is productivity as a word has been used so much. I almost like cringe when I hear it because it feels like there's a manager who's measuring your key clicks and something like that, even though truly what it means is to produce something. Like creativity is to create something, right? But it has awful connotations. So I will say this without saying productivity or flow state or creativity, which is, I appreciate anyone who is listening at this point. I hope that we've said things that are helpful for you on your journey. I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to a place in my life where I can share a lot, right? I can spend a bunch of my time doing this because I've been lucky so far. And the thing that is so rewarding is to hear people actually doing the thing with their life, So I hope that people have made it this far because they're really looking for encouragement and tools and ideas about how to do the great thing of which they're capable. And that's all that I wish, is that people do that, however they do it, with a candle, whatever it may be. But don't die with it. That's a tragedy.
It really is. And just find your way, find your way, find what works and resonates, and teach everything else that doesn't.
There it is.
Same with this podcast episode that you just listened to. It's, if you just take one thing that is going to help you shift and become more of who you are meant to be and closer to your greatness, then we did our job. Because
so true.
We are not meant here for everyone to resonate with each and every word that we are sharing, but just trust that those that are pulled to listen and to tune into this episode, trust that there is something for you there, and no matter what it is, it's for your good, for your highest good.
There you go. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stephen, for coming on, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you go and connect with Stephen, check his app, and check his website. Are going to be all in the show notes. And reach out to us. Let us know what are your insights, your biggest takeaways. What are you taking away from this? And we love hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to go and rate the podcast, leave a review, because that helps us grow and reach out more people. Thank you, Stephen.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Spiritual Changemakers podcast. To stay connected and help us reach more people like you, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Join our community of spiritual changemakers on social media to connect with like-minded individuals and continue the conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change is within you. Keep showing up as your best self, and let's keep the magic of change alive. Until next time.